doing, everybody? And welcome to Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. It is Monday. It's a fantastic Monday. You want to know what makes it even better? Rogan is back. He's coming off the bench. We're going to call it the bench. He's coming off the bench, coming back for this one. He said, you know what? The Badgers, they just wrapped up whatever that end of that year was. So I got to come back and I got to talk about it. So Rogan, how we doing on this Monday?
Trade, like you're saying, I'm coming back from the darkness retreat, if we call it that. Had to go get my mind right. Figured out if I wanted to come back for another season, and hopefully I don't tear the Achilles. The Achilles starting off here, but like you said, had to come talk some Badger basketball and whatever the heck that season ended up being, an absolute meltdown.
So do we call it like 4 minutes in? Because it was only like 4 plays in that Rodgers tore that baby up. I mean, is it going to be about 4 minutes in here? I have to watch out for you and just make sure your legs are okay.
Maybe when I drop back for like my first big hot take, we'll see. Make sure the Achilles is all loosened up there.
We're going to be good. We're going to be good. It is fantastic. Rogan's back. We got lots to jump into today. Staying on the hardwood today, mainly. Checking out the Bucks first. They did lose 2 in a row. We talked about the loss to the Warriors. That game, we're going to call it a wash. That was just a blowout. They had the loss to the Lakers there. That was on Friday night, 123-122. A lot of interesting stuff happened in this game here. But Bucks, played well. No LeBron for the Lakers. Russell went off for the Lakers in that game. Defense on the perimeter, it's still an issue for the Bucks. I thought it was getting a little bit better. I thought Dame and Beasley were getting a little bit better out there. Then all of a sudden, D'Angelo Russell goes off for 44, and the dude's unconscious from downtown. Collectively, the Bucks in this one, pretty good play from Giannis and Dame in, their own rights there. Beasley got a little bit better, 14 points. Brook Lopez, only 11 for Brook. And then off the bench, we had Bobby with 14 and Connaughton. Connaughton played, first game in a very long time. I can say Connaughton played well in this game. But Rogan, this Bucks team, this was a Lakers team without LeBron James. Now, I'm not saying LeBron James is the greatest player of all time. I'll never say that. But not having LeBron, and the Lakers still were able to pull this one out. Does this game worry you if you are a Milwaukee Bucks fan? They did allow D'Angelo Russell to go off for 44, and the dude was getting a lot of open shots out there.
Yeah, no, like you're saying, D'Angelo Russell was just – I watched the game, and that guy could not miss. And like you said, he got some open shots, but he made a lot of contested shots too. But the problem is when you give good players like that open shots and they get hot, then they can start making them no matter what the defense is. But like you're saying, without LeBron, it's kind of a tough loss, especially because – coming off that Warriors game, I also watched that Warriors game. Like, that game worries me a little bit, but there's not a lot of teams in the league. I don't think any team in the league that passes like the Warriors do, because they made the Bucks defense look absolutely atrocious after they had been playing, like you said, a 10, 15 game stretch where in a lot of metrics, they were like top 5 in the league and everything. So to see that was kind of surprising. And Golden State just shot the lights out. Like, I don't know if you watched that game, but they could not miss in that game. It's reminded me like the 17 Warriors with Kevin Durant and all those guys. But yeah, that one was kind of a wash because I think the Warriors just played so well in that game. But like you said, this Lakers game, and especially without LeBron, like you have to focus in on Davis and Russell there, and for them to let Russell go for 44 or whatever it ended up being was just kind of unfortunate. But they're playing better, and I think that's all we can ask for. We just need this defense to be serviceable. It doesn't have to be elite. It just has to be serviceable. And I think these last 10 to 15 games, they've showed enough on the defensive side of the ball where you can feel comfortable kind of going into the playoffs. But, it needs to be better still. It still needs to be better. And like you said, the perimeter defense is still not great. The communication's a lot better. Rotations are better, but we just don't have a guy like we used to have in Drew Holiday where one-on-one you can count on to make a big stop late in a game. But all in all, it's been better, and I think it's only going to get better.
Yeah, 100%. The big thing I took out of that Warriors game was how slow Brook Lopez really is and how the speed of the game has kind of went past him now. You can get away with a guy like Brook going up against, let's just say, Joel Embiid, or even a guy like Jokic. He's not as quick. But when you get against these teams like Golden State, I mean, they were on a fast break. They were ahead of the Bucks. They were 14 steps ahead of the Bucks that entire game. I mean, like you said, they're quick at passing the basketball, but that defense was out of sorts. It was a mess from the get-go, and that's how they punched that lead out there. I still thought the same thing in this one. It seemed like at times Brook Lopez is just a non-factor simply because if he has to extend, the guy can't defend anymore. So I think that is an issue for the Bucks moving forward, not having a big that can come in behind Brook Lopez with a little bit more speed. Now that they have Gallinari, it helps a little bit, but we've seen lackluster playing time out of Gallinari so far. I was excited for that signing. Haven't really seen him much. I thought AJ Green, I'm not sure. I have never understood the usage of AJ Green yet. I believe he played in that Clippers game, and he had a big stretch for the Bucks there late. I think he hit a couple of big threes for him late in that ball game. And then all of a sudden here on this road trip, not seeing much out of AJ Green. So it's interesting to see what Doc is really working through there lineup-wise for this Bucks team. But looking at the game that happened yesterday, and that was the Clippers, they did win that game. They got the Clippers number at least. I mean, that's solid. 124-117 was the final in that ball game. I didn't get to watch much of this game here. I was painting. Had a lot of painting to do. So I didn't have time to watch this Bucks game. Got to watch the Badgers, but didn't get to watch the Bucks. I saw that Dame had a pretty good game for the Bucks there. 35 points for him, 11 for 19 from the floor, and 6 for 7 from the line. Powell had 28 for the Clippers in this one. Rogan, did you get much time to watch this game against the Clippers today?
I did not watch this game today. I definitely wanted to watch this game, but I also saw that. Did you see Kawhi Leonard and Paul George just sat out like a rest game?
Huh.
Neither one of them played today. That just, I don't know. That's frustrating to me, and especially in like a game this big, like just being like playing sports myself, like these are the games you want to play, are these big time games. Like sit out a game against like the Hornets or something that no one wants to play in that game anyways. But to sit out of a game against a really good Bucks team, that just does not sit right with me, honestly. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't see where the competitiveness is, especially for NBA players, to just be sitting out these big time games. But like you said, good games from Dame and Giannis there. I think they combined for 35, 69 total, I think. I think Giannis had 34, Dame had 35. Yep. But kind of going back to what you were saying there with Brook Lopez, like, in my opinion, this team is one piece away, and it's an athletic big. They need an athletic big because, like you're saying, he just doesn't – with some of these younger teams and some of these teams that like to go small ball now, like he cannot keep up with these guys. And it's always frustrated me so much watching him in the pick and roll, just giving wide open shots to like elite players like Kevin Durant. Like a mid-range shot for Kevin Durant is a layup. So like when they were playing the Nets a couple years ago and he never guarded him at the free throw line extended, like that drives me insane. But we always kind of got away with it because he was a pretty consistent 15 to 20 point scorer. But I don't know what's been going on under Doc, if he's just not using Brook Lopez at all. But ever since Doc's kind of taken over, Lopez has not scored the ball whatsoever. I don't think he has a game over 13, and he has multiple games where he had less than 6 points. So if he's not giving you a lot in the scoring end of the ball, and then he's given up a lot on the defensive side of the ball right now, I'm not really sure what his purpose on the floor is.
No, exactly. And, the big thing I look at with Lopez is there's no inside scoring either. It's all perimeter. He's a 3-point threat, and that's it for Brook Lopez. And that's the part that kind of gets me is he seems like a traditional big where he's a little bit slower. Yeah, he can knock down the three, but he's a little bit slower. You would think he's more post-touch kind of guy. He's not in the post. I rarely see Brook Lopez down there. And you look rebounding-wise, even for a guy like Brook Lopez, he's under 6 rebounds per game right now for this Bucks team. He gets a couple here and there, but I mean, Dame gets a couple here and there. He had 11 against the Clippers, and your big guy's getting in there for 6. I think that's something to watch out for there. I mean, looking at this, we need Middleton back. 100% need Middleton back. Jay Crowder, I had so much hope for that guy coming from Boston. I was like, good. He was decent on the defensive end, offensive end. The guy always seemed to hit a big shot for you. I don't think I've seen Jay Crowder score over 10 points for the Bucks yet. I really don't. He's got 7 in this one. I believe game before this against the Lakers, he had 4. I can't figure it out why Jay Crowder's getting. I mean, that's where my usage of AJ Green, I don't understand it. That guy can shoot. We know he can shoot. You got to get him in there to be able to get him hot, though. And we don't see him out there yet. We see the likes of Pat Connaughton, who he gives you, I guess, some of the things that don't show up in the stat book, right? He gives you some of those. But at the same time, if Pat Connaughton is going to give me 26 minutes, I need more than 5 points. If Jay Crowder is going to give me 19 to 25 minutes a night, I need more than 7 points. We wonder why the Bucks have to play so well defensively. They can only put up, 117, whatever it is on a night, because without Middleton, they don't have another scorer behind Dame and Giannis right now. Beasley is hit or miss for me. The guy, all of a sudden, one game he's going to torch you, and the next couple games he's going to go for 4 points, 4 points, 4 points. He's so inconsistent shooting the basketball. That's his game, but he's inconsistent. I don't know. Like you said, though, this Bucks team, they get Middleton back. It still seems like there's that piece missing. And like you said, I think if it's not a guy to start over Brook Lopez, it's definitely a guy to come in behind Brook Lopez. I'm not sure why we haven't seen Bobby Portis in the starting rotation yet. I like Bobby off the bench.
Out of his mind.
Yeah, 100%.
Unbelievable.
Yep, and I get it. You want him off the bench, but Jay Crowder's giving you nothing. Just give this guy the bulk of the minutes, start him, and just let him run with it. Because Jay Crowder, he's the only starter who's below 20 minutes a night right now. Why is he in the starting lineup? Just put Bobby in there, let him run. He's going to play a majority of the minutes anyways. I don't get why we bring him off the bench. It doesn't make sense to me. So, Bucks, as of late here, though, it's been impressive what we've seen the Bucks in the second half of the year. I just think, like we were talking offensively, get Middleton back. Who knows what Middleton's going to give you? I heard from Doc Rivers, or I didn't hear directly from him, but I saw that Doc Rivers said that Middleton is, any day now. Middleton tells us it could be tomorrow, could be next week, could be a couple weeks. I don't know what to make of the Middleton situation anymore. Is he getting healthy? Is he coming? He said he's out there and he's working out, but that ankle all of a sudden will act up on him. To me, if you can't get Khris Middleton back healthy at some point here, is it almost time to say we need to find somebody else out there in the free agent market or whatever it is that could either step in for Khris if you don't trade him? Because Giannis runs the team. We'd have to ask Giannis. But if you don't trade him, it's just these last couple years, it seems like we're always so heavily reliant on a guy who we can't count on to be out there.
No, he's kind of giving me Bakhtiari vibes.
Yep.
When he's healthy, people forget when they won the championship that year in the playoffs. Arguably Middleton through the course of that playoffs was the best player on the team. That guy played unbelievable. At some points, they were comparing him to Michael Jordan in the playoffs. That's how well he was playing, just down the stretch and everything. But like you said, the last couple of years, it's just reoccurring injuries, and you just never know if he's going to play. And it's hard to every year go into a new year with Giannis kind of always being on the fringe if he's going to request a trade, if he's going to stay. You need to make sure you got guys around him that are healthy and have a chance to compete. And they can't win a championship unless he's healthy. So I honestly think you give him as much time as he needs, as long as he's ready to go for the playoffs. And that's I wouldn't mind them starting Bobby Portis over Lopez. And then you kind of have a second unit led by Khris Middleton and then Brook Lopez coming off the bench, because I really think you need to have Middleton kind of leading, maybe work their minutes so Middleton kind of has the floor to himself when the bench comes in, because obviously with Dame and Giannis, Middleton's not going to get the ball that much. But if you kind of have him leading that second unit, let him run the offense a little bit, get him going. You need him to be a 18 to 20 point scorer here down the stretch in the playoffs. So yeah, to get Middleton back, get him back healthy, and get him ready for the playoffs. And I honestly could see over these next 10, 15 games, whenever he comes back, I could see kind of Doc just force feeding him the ball to make sure he gets going for the stretch run of the playoffs. I could see that. But we need Middleton for a chance in these playoffs for sure.
100% agree. And I like the Bobby in there over Lopez. Even a guy like Gallinari, if you give him the shot, the guy can score. He's not like he's a bad scorer. I just don't think he's been given the time with the Bucks so far to even get remotely going. And I think that's also one of the things that I hope Doc figures out here in a couple. I hope sooner rather than later he figures out his rotations, because right now it seems like we'll see AJ Green some nights, and then all of a sudden he'll take a 3-day break, and then AJ Green's back out there. How does a guy get going in a season if you don't play him, a decent amount of the time? I'm not asking for AJ Green to get 30 minutes a night. I'm not even asking for 20, but some kind of consistent playing time where this guy can get going, because when he's right, this guy shoots as well as Beasley does from the 3-point arc. I mean, against the Clippers, he had a couple of dagger shots for them late in that one to lead that comeback there late. So, I mean, you got to get your shooters going here heading forward, because you get into the playoffs, you get against the Celtics, you can't win those games just solely on this defense. Yes, is the defense getting better? 100%, but Porzingis for the Celtics, he's about as good of a shooter as the Bucks have coming off of their bench and in their starting rotation right now, and he's the third best guy on that team. So, I mean, this Bucks team is going to have to be able to score it, and we're going to have to get the shooters going here pretty soon. So, Bucks, I believe, I got to double check there. I don't know when they're in action next. I believe they continue this West Coast road trip here with the Kings.
I think they got the Kings, yeah. Kings on Tuesday. No, they're in a tough stretch, too.
Yeah,
These
they
10
are.
games, this road trip is tough. So if they could come out of this, I think it's a 10-game slate I saw that was pretty much
brutal.
All the top teams in the league. They can come out of this with a 6-4, 7-3 record, and they're not even – I don't even think they're at the peak of what they could do right now. But they could finish this off strong here. That will be a big stretch of games for the Bucks this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about hanging on until you get Middleton back. Once this team is fully locked and loaded and they get to reload, I mean, they're dangerous. I agree, they're dangerous. I don't know if they'll get to what the Celtics are right now, because I believe the Celtics are on a different level. Do I think they can compete with the Celtics? Yeah. I think Giannis, when he gets going, you have to. My biggest problem this year has been with Dame and Giannis. It seems like we get their best when the other one isn't playing. We have to get both of them playing well at the same time. Dame seems to hesitate, and I don't know if it's just me. I want to ask you this question too. Does it seem if Dame is hesitant to shoot the basketball at times when Giannis is on the floor? And Giannis almost seems the same way. He hesitates at times with Damian Lillard on the floor. I need both of them flowing at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. You watch some of these games, and it does feel – that's what I mean. Like, I don't think they've reached their peak yet, because, like, Giannis and Dame, the last couple games, they've both had 30 apiece in these last 2 games now. So hopefully that continues, and hopefully they get rolling now. And I think they have started to play better and better together. And I know Doc has them doing a lot more pick and rolls together, which is something Adrian Griffin refused to do for some reason, with Giannis being an elite roller and Dame being Dame. I never understood that. But yeah, like you said, that's what I mean, that I don't think they've reached their potential yet, because you still see uncomfortableness between those two. They still haven't quite figured it out. And for them to still not have figured it out and still be, I think they're the second leading duo in the league right now, averaging like 57 points a game. Like that's the part that excites me. If they can, over these next 15, I don't even know how many games will have, probably 15-ish.
Oh boy. Yeah, right around that.
10 to 15, somewhere in there. That's why I think if those two can get it going, and then you got to get Middleton his shots. But that's where I think if those two can kind of click these last 15 games, I don't think there is a team they can't beat in a 7-game series. Don't get me wrong; they're going to be stretched to the limit against a team like Celtics. But if those two can kind of figure this out, I could see them beating a Celtics team in 7, and I could see the Celtics beating the Bucks in 7. I think, but like you said, I'm looking at the schedule right now, and Wednesday, March 20th, the Bucks play at Boston. So that's going to be a huge game, I think, for both teams, because Boston kind of recently they're starting to show some chinks in the armor recently. They've lost some games these last week and a half that they have not lost all year long, and you've seen struggles with them. They've always kind of struggled late in games because they play a lot of iso ball, and when they're not hitting shots, their offense looks horrible. So that's the one thing that the Bucks kind of have to take advantage of, is they don't move the ball that well, but they've got a lot of guys that can score the ball. So Yeah, big game though coming up March 20th there.
Well, it's 100%. This is a tough stretch for the Bucks, and it continues on Tuesday, 9 o'clock. Another great 9 o'clock tip for us there on Tuesday against the Kings. But with that, before we move on here, I just wanted to mention a couple of our sponsors here. First, your hometown team, Century 21 Gold Key Realty. Call Peggy Sue or Anna to find your dream home, or if you're looking to sell, find them on Facebook at your hometown team, Century 21 Gold Key Realty, or stop in and see them at their location in Marshfield. Also, sports scene, sports cards, and memorabilia. Stop in there in the Marshfield Mall and see Al. He'll help you get all your sporting cards, memorabilia, jerseys, model stock cars. They got it all at Sports Scene in Marshfield. Also, Pittsville Farm and Home Center. At the store, they serve you anything from hydraulic hoses to red roses. Stop in and see the awesome crew at Pittsville Farm and Home Center in Pittsville. Well, Rogan, let's talk some college hoops. Lots of college hoops going on these days. We got to jump into it here. Marquette, first team I want to look at here. Marquette, they're limping into the Big East tournament right now. Tyler Kolek's been out. Shaka Smart believes that he will be back at some point this year. We don't know if it's going to be Big East tournament. We don't know if it's going to be for the big dance. We don't know. I heard it was an oblique injury. You don't know how well guys recover from that. So what does Tyler Kolek look like coming out of that injury? They did pick up a win against Xavier here. I believe that was on Saturday. That game was a final of 86-80 there at Xavier. So, I mean, Marquette as of right now, that UConn game, I don't look at very heavily because no Tyler Kolek in that game. They only lost that game by 7 to UConn. Yes, it was at home for Marquette, but played well, had a comeback against this UConn team, a UConn team that's very good. And then game before that, I don't even know if I can count that game because no Tyler Kolek or Oso Ighodaro. I mean, both those guys were out for that Creighton game. So Marquette heading into the Big East tournament here, I mean, you got to get right. You got to get Tyler Kolek back because I don't know if it affects you as much in the Big East tournament. You can afford. You're gonna lose to UConn most likely. UConn will win it. There's a lot of good Big East teams like Creighton who could beat you in there. But I mean, big dance time. Tyler Kolek's instrumental. I mean, to this team. So where do you see? They're going to be a 2-3 seed right now. I don't think they drop below a 2-3 seed in this tournament. But where do you see this Marquette team stacking up here as we get closer and closer to the big dance?
Yeah, like you said, it's gonna come down to Tyler Kolek, and it is unfortunate he got hurt kind of late in the season because they kind of had it figured out. They were playing a lot better basketball the last month and a half of the season than they had been all year long, and you were finally starting to see this team with all this potential finally started to put together. But then obviously Kolek goes down. I think he went down in that Providence game, correct?
Yes. Yep.
And then right after that, you play a Creighton team that Creighton's one of those weird teams. They're pretty consistent. They can some nights go out and they can beat anybody, and then some nights they go out and it's like, what
am I watching?
What am I watching? But
yep.
When they're playing well, if that Creighton team can get hot and string some games together, that's a team that, in my opinion, can win it all. They're very good when they're hot, but they just have to be consistent. And, you lose by 14 to them. But, again, no Tyler Kolek, and you still play them tough. 14 is not that bad. And then, obviously, you play UConn coming off the last game against UConn where they just got ran out of the gym. You play UConn at home. And like you said, you only lose by 7 to those guys. And still with no Tyler Kolek. So you're seeing other guys step up. And it's just, in my opinion, if they can get Kolek back, I think this team is heading in the right direction. But like you were saying, with ankles, Khris Middleton, he's on and off half the time. Like you can never be sure. And to have him go down this late in the season sucks for Marquette. But yeah, without him, I don't think they stand a chance, to be honest. That's a tough conference, the Big East. It's a really tough conference. But if they can get him back and healthy, at least for the big tournament, I think they're in pretty good shape right now.
I think it really shows to me how much they lack depth, though, in Marquette. With, you lose to, I get it. I'm not a big Marquette fan. I'm not going to tell you I'm a big Marquette fan. But I'm going to say that you lose a guy like Tyler Kolek, that's a big loss. That is 1,000% a big loss. But what we've seen out of Marquette here as of late is how instrumental he is just in passing the basketball. It does add another scoring threat, but just in the movement of the basketball, his team went a little more stagnant when he went out. And I think that shows it shows a weakness in what Marquette can do. Big East tournament, it starts here, I believe, on March 13th is when the Big East tournament starts. Marquette will get the winner of Nova and DePaul. Not really worried about DePaul. DePaul's not a very good team at all. So, I mean, you're probably going to face Villanova. This is a good Villanova team. They're playing for March Madness at this point. They're playing for the big dance yet. They're still technically in the picture going into this tournament. A couple wins here against a team like Marquette would boost that resume. So, will be a tough tournament there for Marquette, 100%. You got UConn as the 1 seed, Creighton as a 2, Marquette as a 3, and Seton Hall in there as that 4 seed. So the Big East tournament will be a good one there. Before we move on here, just wanted to mention a couple more of our sponsors here. First, Game Day Supply in Onalaska. Do you have a sports club or team? Are you looking for some sweet custom uniforms or apparel? Check out the awesome crew at Game Day Supply to help your team get the sweetest gear. Find them on Facebook at Game Day Supply or online at GameDaySupply.net. Also, Sport and Spine Clinic in Greenwood. If you've been hurt recently, whether at work, whether it was on the on the basketball court, on the field, wherever it was, stop in there and see Chad at Sport and Spine Clinic in Greenwood. He will get you right. He'll get you back to work, back out on the field, whatever it is. He'll get you back there. Sport and Spine Clinic in Greenwood. But, Rogan, we got to talk about it. The team both of us know the most, and we've watched the downfall of them here in the second half. Badgers lose to Purdue 78-70. Looked better than what it really was heading toward. I mean, this game could have gone 13 different ways. Early on, I thought the Badgers were going to get blown out. They kept it close. Then all of a sudden, they got it down to 4. Purdue was able to blossom that lead out there, got it up to 16 at one point, and then all of a sudden the Badgers came back late in this one. I loved A.J. Storr stealing that basketball away and going to throw the hammer down. That was awesome. I loved it. I mean, a lot of Purdue fans booed him. I love that out of A.J. Storr. One final, we don't care kind of moment there. Badgers dropped to 19-12. Purdue moves to 28-3 on this season. I mean, let's dissect this game. So Stephen Crowell, no points. I thought post touches, the Badgers did a terrible job on getting Stephen Crowell the basketball even. Meaningful post touches. I guess I should say that. They got a lot of post touches. But when I say meaningful, I mean Stephen Crowell's on the block. Stephen Crowell's actually in position when he receives the basketball to even look to score. I thought they got away from that in this game. I thought that was a problem. Stephen Crowell, I mean, we've talked about in the past. Dude's soft. He's been playing soft this season. I don't know why, but I believe this game here, even when Nolan Winter was in there wasn't a lot of post touches to be had by the big man. And it's kind of surprising because Tyler Wall had Zach Edey on him majority of the game. Zach Edey never really switched off, so they had the advantage, just never really got him that basketball there. So that's my take on Stephen Crowell. I mean, otherwise for the Badgers, Tyler Wall was impressive once again against Zach Edey. Somehow that guy figures out how to score around Zach Edey. Tyler Wall played impressive in this one. A.J. Storr, I guess it's the way you look at A.J. Storr. A lot of shots. Some shots that he took were questionable if they were good or not. I thought at times he was out of control in this game. 17 points for him in this one. Max Klesmit gets into foul trouble here early on. Only 7 points in this game. Chucky Hepburn, 2 points for Chucky. Blackwell gives us 18 off the bench. McGee got us 4. I'm going to say this outright, and I want to know your opinion because when I was sitting there watching this game, this is the one thing that kept clicking in my head. The Badgers were 1 for, I believe, 10 at one point from the three-point line. I believe they were 1 for whatever for a while there from the three-point line in the first half. They couldn't shoot from the outside as a whole in this game, 5 for 24. Why at some point did we not see Connor Essegian? That's what I want to know. This Badger team defensively sucks this year. Let's just go with it 100%. I'm just going to be downright. I'm one of the biggest Badger fans you'll ever meet, and I will ride and die with them. But I'll tell you this year, their defense has been terrible. Can Connor Essegian's defense actually be worse than what the Badgers have done this year? We have allowed 80-some points to Iowa and Penn State. We've allowed teams to score 70-plus on us who are terrible. And yet you're telling me, Greg Gard, I'm going to put this on Greg Gard because he's in charge of rotations, that Connor Essegian's defense is that bad that we cannot see him out here. Now, I get it. If you were to say, I mean, who's your best shooter on Wisconsin right now? You wouldn't say Connor Essegian because he hasn't been getting the time to prove that. But if you were to ask me, when I look at this roster, who's the best shooter from three on this team, I say Connor Essegian. There's only one guy, when he checks into a game, the other team dogs him. And it's been this way all year. Even though he hasn't played, they still dog him. And that's Connor Essegian. They don't dog Klesman. They don't dog Hepburn. They don't follow them around like it's their job. But when Connor Essegian steps on the floor, teams still follow him like it's nothing. I mean, Rogan, I saw multiple occasions today where I was like, why is Connor Essegian not in this game? I get it. They didn't want it defensively. But defensively, the Badgers are bad. Why isn't Connor Essegian getting playing time on this team?
Yeah, like, I don't know. Like you were saying, love the Badgers. And in past years, I could see why Connor Essegian might not play just because they're that elite on the defensive side. But like you said, he cannot hurt this defense whatsoever. This defense this year is horrible. And it kind of reminds me of the Packers and defending the run. It's the same problem with the Badgers every year. They cannot shoot the three. And in today's day and age of college basketball, you have to be able to shoot the three-pointer. And to have, like you were saying, arguably, I don't even think it's an argument. He is the best three-point shooter on this team. And he logs 1 minute. 1 minute coming off
garbage
the bench.
time. Just garbage time.
There was 5 other guys that came off the bench that played more than he did. And I just don't understand it, especially when your starters go 2 of 13 from the three-point arc there. And I'm ready to see Blackwell start. I think they need to start him. I think you got to start him over probably Klesman. Honestly, I wouldn't even mind starting over Chucky at this point. Chucky he's not giving you anything on the offensive side of the ball whatsoever. And you're not going to lose defense with Blackwell coming onto your starting five, so you don't really have to worry about that. And he's been playing quite a few minutes off the bench, and he's scoring efficiently. Unlike we were kind of saying with Storr, like he's going to give you 17 to 20 points a game, but he's also going to need 15 to 20 shots to score 20 points a game. So I don't know. I think you use the Big Ten tournament to kind of experiment a little bit with some lineups because you got to figure out a way to get hot in this tournament if you're going to try to make a run in the NCAA tournament. And whatever you're doing right now is just not working. And I think you need to start shifting minutes a little bit. Like you were saying, I think Essegian has to start playing at least 10 to 15 minutes a game, but one minute is ridiculous for your best
in the last 2 games. I don't think he played against Rutgers. I really don't. I don't think he played against Rutgers at home. And I mean, I agree. Blackwell, you love him off the bench, but this guy, he plays starter minutes. Why is he not just, I mean, Chucky Hepburn gives you nothing. The guy doesn't even look to shoot anymore. I don't know why. I don't know if he's so hesitant because he looks at social media and he realizes that people crap on him all the time for shooting last year, because now he doesn't even look to shoot. I mean, there have been that game against Rutgers. He drove the lane how many times, had a wide open look, and he'd kick it out. Yeah, did Klesman hit a shot? Yeah, he did. But why isn't Chucky even looking to shoot the basketball?
He's a good scorer, too.
Yeah.
Like, he's a good scorer. That's why I don't understand. Like, he's like so afraid to shoot, and I don't understand because the games he decides to be aggressive, like, this guy's the best playmaker on the team, in my opinion, getting his own shot. Like, he can get really hot, and we have not seen a single game this year, except for maybe like I went to like the first game of the season and he went off in that game, but he was aggressive. And since then, it's just been an absolute no-show on the offensive side. And it's not like he's shooting a bunch and missing. He just ain't shooting at all.
No.
So I just don't understand it.
No, 100%. And I would even be okay if there was times throughout a game where you had Blackwell and Essegian on the floor at the same time, and those two were your guards. I believe Blackwell can bring the ball up. I believe Essegian can bring the ball up. Chucky Hepburn doesn't bring the ball up. I mean, a lot of Badger fans say, okay, you don't have a true point guard out there. Tyler Wall brings the ball up half the time for the Badgers. It's just whoever's going to initiate that offense. Late in the game, yeah, you want your good guards on the floor to bring the basketball up. But right now, the Badgers are playing games right now where they're looking, and I believe it started, Kirk Penny came into this Badger team as an assistant coach. He influenced the Badgers by becoming, like Stephen Crowell said, their offensive coordinator. He brought a European-style offense to the Badgers, higher possessions. We're looking for shots earlier in the shot clock, and we're trying to make this thing basically a shootout. That's what we've seen all year long from the Badgers. They don't have the playmakers for that. At least the guys who are going to shoot the basketball, we don't have that right now in what we're seeing in the starting lineup. Stephen Crowell can't create shots, and he can't play in an offense where he doesn't have his back to the basket, where he's not standing on the block. That's his spot. We see so many instances where Stephen Crowell isn't even in position to do what he can do. When you put Stephen Crowell on the block, the guy can score. He goes to the hook shot all the time. That's about all he's got for a move at this point. But, I mean, the non-factor of the bigs is where I look at. Now, I can't blame Nolan Winter. The guy is still undersized, and it sucks to say he's undersized for what, I mean, especially going up against Zach Edey today. Now, I got to ask you a question. A lot of people I'm not going to blame the reffing for this game. Purdue's the better team over Wisconsin, but the reffing in this game sucked. It outright sucked. When you go to Purdue, the reffing gets bad. Why does Purdue stink so bad when they get into March? Is because they get away from Big Ten officials. I watched this game. Braden Smith rolls up his ankle over by the Wisconsin bench. We stop the game. They stop the game, and they go 10 to Braden Smith. That's fine. I get that. But Chucky Hepburn gets completely, he gets a claw across the face from Zach Edey. I believe he was bleeding out of his face there. He's laying on the ground on the opposite end of the court. They don't stop the game. They let this baby keep rolling. It took Greg Gard having to yell to the officials for them to stop the game. First off, probably should have been a foul. Didn't call the foul. Then we had Blackwell. He gets aggressive. I love the aggressive play out of Blackwell. I thought he kind of was stupid at points where he was throwing elbows around, but Blackwell throws the elbow. Okay, that's fine. You call the offensive foul, that's fine. But Zach Edey goes to the other end, and Nolan Winter's up in his chest. Zach Edey decides, hey, I'm going to throw an elbow into Nolan Winter. No call. No call at that end. I thought in this game, Robbie Hummel even said, and Robbie Hummel's a pro Purdue guy. Robbie Hummel says this last 4 minutes of this game has been terrible. It has been terrible officiating. There was one, I believe, Nolan Winter, Zach Edey had the ball, Nolan Winter grabbed it, had his arm stuck in there, and they called him for a foul. Now, I get it. I get refs don't dictate the complete game. Badgers, 5 for 24 from downtown. You had to shoot better. That's end of the day. I don't believe Wisconsin deserved to win this game the way they shot the 3-ball. But what I believe is they got to find a way that officiating, because we've seen a lot of Purdue games this year. I believe they had one against Northwestern where they shot like 40 free throws in that game against Northwestern. I get it. Zach Edey's a big guy, but you have to find a way to officiate Purdue. You can't call all the ticky-tack crap down there, especially, everybody talks about Big Ten basketball being this bruiser of a conference. They can't touch Zach Edey nowadays. You can't do anything to Zach Edey. Now, some of them, I am all for their blatant fouls. When the guards come down and they're hacking in there on Zach Edey, those are fouls. I get that. But there was a lot of stuff in this game that it was like, no call. There should be nothing here. And it went both ways, I thought, at times in this game where Purdue got called for stuff, and it was like, why are you calling this crap now? I don't know. I just wanted to hear your opinion on it because I saw a lot of people talking about it on social media there with the reffing in this game. I didn't think it was bad. I just think there was a lot of crap that should not have been called in this game and got the Badgers into major foul trouble.
Yeah, like you're saying, it's tough with guys as big as Edey because you have to find the balance where contact on a guy like a Esiason, that's a foul, is not a foul on a guy like Edey. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Where Esiason, I'm just using Esiason. He's a smaller guy, but you make contact with Esiason, and it might throw off his shot a lot more than that same level of contact will throw off Edey. where this is where it gets hard because technically in both instances it's a foul under the rule book, but you also have to find that fine line because, like you said, with big guys like Edey, you have to play super physical to slow him down. And if you want, you can call a foul on every single play, but you don't want basketball games like you were saying with that Northwestern game where there was 40 free throws and Edey shot 20. That's not basketball. Basketball isn't meant to have guys shooting 20 free throws. That's not what the game's about. And that's why, like you're saying, Purdue struggles because when you get to the tournament and you get to postseason, refs let the guys play. It's the same in the NBA. It's the same in every level of basketball. Once you get into do or die games, the refs let you play more. And when you start relying, where I don't want to say Purdue's relying on the free throw line, but when you're relying on getting to the free throw line 20 to 30 times a game, and you go to the tournament, and now that's 15 to 20 times a game, like that's a big hole in your offense to account for. But it's tough. It's really tough with big guys. And, you look at even NBA, they struggle with Giannis. Sometimes Giannis, if you wanted to, Giannis could have 30 free throws a game, but nobody wants to see that. So, you're going to have some games where it gets out of hand, and then you're going to have some games where they probably should have called more fouls. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Purdue adjusts to the tournament because, like you said, they're not going to call everything that they call during the regular season.
100%. And I remember a call. I had to look it back up there. Chucky Hepburn got ran over by Zach Edey. I don't remember if you remember that play there. It was late it was 9 minutes left in the game. Badgers got it down to 4. Chucky was kind of just standing in the lane, and Zach Edey came barreling down on him, ran him over. Would have been Zach Edey's 4th foul. Nothing called. Ended up getting a flip out to the corner then, and then Lawyer banged the 3, and from there, it was downhill for the Badgers. I just thought, I'd never want to blame officiating. It sucks to have to because then you feel like, why am I blaming officiating right now? But this game, there was a lot of stuff that if you're going to call it one way, call it the other, and let the ticky-tack crap go. I want to see games where you go up against Zach Edey where you can play a little physical. I mean, Nolan Winter is a smaller guy. You have to let Nolan Winter play physical when he's in there playing the big man against Zach Edey. That's just what you have to do. I don't know. All the way around, honestly, Badgers played better against Purdue at Mackey than I thought they would. The only thing that I don't understand is when the Badgers got it down to 4, what were they doing? Getting inside. They were going to the basket. A lot of cutters. They had a lot of cutters going down the lane. Kamari McGee was getting to the basket. Klesmit was getting to the basket. That's how they put the run on. And then all of a sudden, we start settling for shots again. We start trying to get back those 4 points with one bucket. And I don't get it. I don't get it with this Badger team, why they get so out of sorts like that. I truthfully don't understand it. So I haven't asked you this in a while. You're down there in Madison. You're hearing everybody talking in Madison right now. Greg Gard, he gets the win against Rutgers. They look a lot better, but is Greg Gard's job safe with the Wisconsin Badgers?
I'd say if he makes the Sweet 16, it's 75% chance that he stays. If he makes the Elite Eight, he stays. If they lose in the first round, he's gone. If he loses in the second round, there's a 75% chance that he's gone too. I think, like you were kind of saying a month ago when you kind of predicted this trade. You kind of said you didn't like what you were seeing with the Badgers, and we're all like, calm down. But losing, I think 8 out of their last 11 games, just completely falling apart. And that's been like I brought it up in the beginning of the season. The Badgers like to start out hot, and then they like to go on these ruts right before the tournament every year where they lose 5-6 games in a row. And we saw that again. And as a coach, you cannot let that happen. And now that's been 3 years in a row now that happened. They're coming off last year where they didn't even make the tournament and then just fall apart like they did this year. And then you're losing, like I was saying a couple of weeks ago, can't bring any of the in-state talent in. We have elite in-state talent right now in Wisconsin. Can't get any of them to come here. I think it's going to come down to what they do in the tournament. Like you're saying, I think if they make it to the Sweet 16, he stays. But for sure, if they lose in the first round, he's gone. And I think if they lose in the second round, he's gone too. I just don't see. I don't see a Badger team that finishes, say, 21-14 or something like that. How you justify keeping them after a year where you didn't even make the tournament last year, and the year before that you were gone in the first round as well. So, yeah, he is definitely. It's molten lava right now. The seat is molten lava.
It has to be. It really does. I get people's arguments of, yeah, he's two-time coach of the year, yeah, this and that, but we've had 2 years in a row with the season meltdown. That team started 11-2 last year, had a meltdown. This year, what were they at one point? 16-4? I mean, they were just rolling. I don't remember exactly what the record was, but I believe at one point they were like 16-4 and something, and they fell
at one
apart.
point we were the sixth ranked team in the country. How long ago does that seem right now?
Well, and the worst part is, so you have to, if you could answer the question, is this team, and I've answered it a couple times, and I believe my take on it is right, but I'll tell you it, and I'll see what you think. This team was the sixth best team in the nation at one point, in quotations mark. That's what they told us. At one point, now they're unranked. I believe this Badger team is a top 25 team, skill-wise. I believe they're a top 25 team. I believe they're if they're not top 20, they're just on the outside looking in of that top 20. I believe they could be top 20 in the nation right now. I don't know what it is. What if you're telling me, and this is what I've seen a lot of people talking about it, and they've said the Badgers are just downright bad. Okay, if you're telling me that in the third, fourth, and in Tyler Wall's case, sixth year of these guys' college careers, they are this bad, then that tells me recruiting has been terrible. Player development has been terrible. That's what you're telling me. If it's not, then you're telling me in-game adjustments are terrible. And that, I mean, play calling, whatever you want to call it, confidence, right? I believe this Badger team runs on confidence. Nebraska killed them. That second half against Nebraska is when this whole ship went, it's when it sunk. This ship sunk in the second half versus Nebraska. They have never been able to get the confidence back. You got to have leadership within your player group, right? But it starts in front. It starts with the coaching staff, getting these players ready to rock and roll. And I don't know if they're doing that for them. So I guess I want to ask you, this team was the sixth best team in the nation at one point. They were ranked number 6. Now they're underranked. Where do you see this Badger team truthfully fitting in right now? I mean, not playing as they are, but team-wise, skill-wise, whatever you want to call it. Where do you see them fitting in right now in the top 25, top 100, wherever you got them ranked?
I think, they have skilled players. They definitely don't have enough. They do not have enough skilled players. You look at a guy like, I've kind of said this all year. They're not athletic.
No.
You watch this team, and this team's not athletic. And the Big Ten basketball has changed over these last couple of years. Like you said, it used to be ground and pound, inside ball, really tough, all that, and they did well in that because that's what this team's built for. But I think you see over the last maybe 3 to 4 years, this conference has changed a lot. And I think that's because the Big Ten was struggling in the tournament. I think it's fair to say that, other than Michigan State, but that's because they got top-of-the-line guys. The conference was struggling in the tournament, and I think you saw them kind of turn to more of that run-and-gun style, which the Badgers just don't have. And in my opinion, I don't think they're as bad as they're playing right now, but in my opinion, I think they're playing closer to the level of what the team skill-wise actually is than they were at the beginning of the year. At the beginning of the year, they were just hot. They were just playing really confident. They were hot. And I think if you look at this team now, I think they're probably a borderline top 20 to 25 team, like you're saying. I definitely think they're skilled enough to be a top 25 team. And Greg Gard is a good coach. He's good enough to coach them to a top 25 team. He's not going to take you any farther than that, in my opinion, but he is not a bad coach. I don't want to say that he's a bad coach, but definitely not what the Badgers need right now. And you have to get more athletic. You look, the most athletic guy in this team is AJ Storr and then probably Blackwell. But other than that, these guys are obviously great athletes, but compared to what you need to compete, these guys, this team's not athletic enough.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Greg Gard, like you said, I've never once thought that Greg Gard is a terrible coach. I just think at times, and too many times, he gets outcoached. He gets out schemed. He can't make decisions well, and he doesn't make adjustments well in game. There are coaches who go into a lot of games who they are going to stick to their game plan, and that's it. If they get beat, they get beat. But Greg Gard he can't make adjustments. You look at this season as the first half, Badgers were rolling. Second half of the year, teams made adjustments to the Badgers. The Badgers didn't make those adjustments back. And I think that's what really kills them down the stretch here. Also, decision-making to me, you talked about recruiting before. Last season, when we hit the transfer portal, we got AJ Storr. That was fantastic. But I realistically look at this team, and I say, what was the plan behind Stephen Crowell? He's your number one guy, right? He's your big man. But the plan was never Nolan Winter. Nolan Winter bursted onto the scene, and he just became that second guy. Gus Bus, I don't think they were banking on him being that guy. If they were, I think they're nuts. They didn't hit the transfer portal hard enough to find another big. I don't care if it was a big that could score like Zach Edey or score like some of the other bigs in the nation right now. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a big who could step in and give Stephen Crowell minutes or give minutes off the bench and give Stephen Crowell a break while also being able to contribute in his own way. Right now, you're banking on Nolan Winter, which is fine, but you're expecting Nolan Winter to come off the bench there and give you 10 points, give you meaningful minutes where he's banging around with some of the best guys in the Big Ten. Now, I thought Nolan Winter actually, in both meetings versus Purdue, played well against Zach Edey for what Nolan Winter is. He's not a big guy yet. He hasn't filled out, but he played well against Zach Edey. That's good to see. But you go into this next year, you're going to have a guy in Jack Robinson coming in. I believe he's like a 6'8" guy coming out of Minnesota. He's not a tall guy. He's probably about that Nolan Winter. And then you're going to have Daniel Freitag, a guard, coming in. You don't have a big coming in yet. To me, you have to address the big man situation in Madison. We've seen the games where the Badgers win. Stephen Crowell has big games. Against Rutgers, I believe he had like 17 points, had big minutes for this Badger team. Against Purdue, 0. Badgers lose. Now, am I saying if Stephen Crowell dropped, 15 points in this game, do the Badgers win? Looking at the scoreboard, yes, but it takes shots away from other guys. You don't know how the game flows in between there. But when Stephen Crowell plays well, the Badgers play well. I think they need to find another big, and I don't know, is that on Greg Gard recruiting that in this last season going into this? Was there a big man out there? Probably. There had to have been one out there in the transfer portal we could have got. I know Rank Mast was out there. He ended up going to Nebraska. But other than that, there had to be a big man out there the Badgers could have just grabbed and made work inside this rotation. So I don't know. To me, they missed on adding a big man into this rotation. What do you think? Roster-wise for the Badgers, did they miss out on anything big heading into this season?
I can't really think off the top of my head. I do know there was one guy. I think that might have been the guy that you said went to Nebraska.
Yeah, Rank Mast.
Was he like a 7'5" guy or something like that? Insane.
No, not 7'5". They played him. He's like 6'10", 6'11". He was at Bradley. The Badgers played him last year in the NIT tournament.
Because there was a guy that I know they missed last year. I think he was like favored to go to Madison and then ended up, I think, actually going maybe to Purdue. But he was like a 7'4" big man, uber talented, a super talented big man. And from what I kind of remember reading about it, I thought that it sounded like the Badgers kind of blew it. Like he kind of wanted to come to Wisconsin, but things just didn't work out. And like you were saying with the transfer portal nowadays, if I was a coach in any sport, I would be hammering the transfer portal more than I'm going to try to get new recruits, in my opinion. Because at least with the transfer portal, you can go off a guy that's already played in college, and so you know how he's already adjusted. Whereas you take chances with every one of these high school kids if they're going to be able to adjust. Whereas with the transfer portal, you know how these guys have already adjusted to the game, and you can really change a team in a single offseason now with the transfer portal. I don't like the transfer portal. I don't like how it works. But if I was a coach right now, I think you have to be kind of exploiting the transfer portal and to only And you brought in a guy like AJ Storr this year, and he's probably the best player on the team this year, but that's the only guy you got. You need to go after, you need to get athleticism and shooting. That's what you got to look for in the transfer portal right now if you're a Badger coach.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, Klesmit was before that, but if you look in the transfer portal, we've only grabbed technically 2 guys within the transfer portal, one being Max Klesmit, the other one being AJ Storr. You look at a lot of these other universities, that's how they build their teams. Nowadays, it's through the transfer portal. Look at Kansas. I mean, Kansas got one of the biggest splashes in Hunter Dickinson this last year, but other than that, I mean, Badgers, like you said, aren't hitting it very hard, and that's a problem. You saw also, I mean, guard play, a lot of good guards moved around there out of the transfer portal. We saw Nemhard ended up at Gonzaga, but I don't know. Badgers gotta. That's going to be a big thing too.
Daniel Jacobson.
Daniel Jacobson.
Okay. 7'3", 235. He committed to Purdue.
Interesting. I mean, yeah. Do you blame it on Greg Gard? I don't know, but at the end of the day, it's your head coach's job to be. I got to be out and about. I got to be finding these guys. I mean, look at Dalton Connect. I can't remember where the heck he came from. Some terrible. Where the heck was he? I can't even see that logo there. What the heck that is? But Dalton Connect came from a pretty small college there, ended up at Tennessee. Now Dalton Connect is one of the better, I mean, probably the best player in college basketball right now. Not saying the Badgers were going to get Dalton Connect, but that's one of those things where you got to be looking at these small universities out there and saying, who can I bring? Who can I add to this roster? Like you said, I mean, yeah, recruiting is still big. You got guys like Daniel Freitag and Jack Robinson coming in, but those guys aren't ready to go right away. Maybe Daniel Freitag might be, but is Robinson going to give you the big minutes that you want in the post area? No, he's not going to come in as this 225 guy. Look at Stephen Crowell. We've given him 3 years and he just got to 225 and he's still not aggressive. So you always play that game.
And with young guys too, if you're a coach with these young guys, like you're saying, they're probably not going to come in ready to play right away. They're going to need 10 to 15 games to figure things out, but they're going to need minutes. And that's something that you've seen Gard. He just doesn't give guys time to figure it out on the floor. If you get 5 minutes and you make one mistake, you're done for the game. It's not like, but that's kind of how Wisconsin basketball has always been. It's a senior-led, upperclassmen team that don't make mistakes, and it takes the younger guys multiple years to play, but that's where the recruiting's struggling. These younger guys don't want to come to Madison because they don't get to play until they're usually a junior or a senior. So I think you need to see a transition. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be like football. I could see the Badgers kind of firing Gard, and with football, it was a power run team, and now they completely flipped the script because that's where college football is going. And I could see that coming down the line for this Badgers basketball program for sure.
Now, if they move on, I want to end it on this here. If they move on from Greg Gard, I mean, there's a lot of names out there. There's a lot of names, but I'm going to ask, do you stay in-house like the Badgers have done? Do you stay in-house with, say, Joe Krabanoff, or even a guy, I know Kirk Penny just came back from overseas there, but he's retooled the offense. Do you stick with one of those guys? Are you moving on? Are you calling Tony Bennett and saying, hey, you want to come home from Virginia? You wouldn't really change much having Tony Bennett coming over because, like we've seen with Virginia, that's more of a defensively oriented team, not high scoring. You wouldn't change what people want in Madison. So do you stay in-house or are you going on the outskirts?
It's a good question. Tony Bennett, like you were saying, I could for sure see the Badgers hiring Tony Bennett, especially if they, get rid of Greg Gard there, because like you said, he kind of fits a Wisconsin mold. The one thing that is with Tony Bennett, he can recruit a lot better than Greg Gard can. And, that's why I could see him being a likely candidate because this formula the Badgers has worked. They just need better talent. And you bring in a guy that kind of runs the same schemes, defense-oriented, doesn't turn the ball over, but now you add the fact that he can recruit at a much higher level. And this guy is a proven coach. He won a national championship. He is a very proven coach. So I could see them going that direction, but I don't think you can stay in house. I don't think. I think, in my opinion, you need something fresh, something new, and I could see. I could see. I honestly could see him getting rid of most of the coaches. I don't think it maybe even stops at just Greg Gardner. I could see seeing it going to assistants too, possibly. I think you just need to gut it. I think you need to gut it. You need to get fresh faces in there. I've seen another one, Nate Oates. Have you heard about that one at all?
Oates would be interesting. That'd be an interesting move right there.
Yeah, I've heard about that because obviously I'm pretty sure he grew up in Madison, didn't he?
Yeah,
I believe
right
he
around
did.
there. Right around. If it was not Madison, it was in the outskirts.
And that would be a fresh start for the program because you see him down in Alabama, and that team runs, guns, shoots threes, and scores a lot of points. So that's the type of change I'm talking about with the program that I could see them going. So that's another guy that would make perfect sense for the Badgers if they kind of want to get a different identity as a team.
But the big thing these days is it's going to come down to NIL money too. How much is Wisconsin University going to? I just don't get it. They say Badger basketball isn't as big as Badger football, but the Badgers had the second highest attendance in all the Big Ten this year for basketball games. I believe they were just behind Purdue. Now, I don't know if that doesn't scream that the Badger basketball. I mean, the Badger faithful still show up whether they want to cheer or not. They're still sitting in the seats. So it's not like I would love to see the Badgers put a little bit more money into the area of basketball. I know they do already, but maybe a little bit more. Maybe try to build this team with some of that kind of magic because that's the way college basketball's going. I know I said I was going to end it on the other thing, but did you see they're actually talking about an NIL college basketball tournament where it's going to be held in Las Vegas, a payout of $1 million to 8 different teams. They will not all get $1 million. It'll be split between the players, and then the winning team would also get another $1 million. You want to ruin college basketball even more than we already have you want to ruin college sports even more than we already have with this NIL crap? Host a tournament, an in-season tournament. Those 8 teams, they're going to know who's going to that NIL tournament before the season even starts. Those 8 teams will get a majority of the recruits because guess what? They want to go get that money. It's just stupid. Everything is stupid now with college sports.
The only way I would ever approve of that tournament is if it was like the 10 you know what I'm saying, 10 schools that don't have a lot of funding for recruiting. Then in my opinion that would be better because you're giving more teams money to make better teams and make the game as a whole better with more competitive teams. But you know who's going to be in that tournament? It's going to be Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina. They're not going to have North Colorado State or the Badgers in a tournament like that. It's going to be these teams that already have $1 bazillion. And I have to throw another one out there. Did you see that they're talking about expanding the tournament to 96 teams? If they do that, I will lose there is nothing wrong with March Madness. It's the most special time of the year. It is perfect. If they move on and try to do something different, the NCAA needs to be, in my opinion, we need to get rid of the NCAA. They're an absolute joke at this point.
I believe it already is an absolute joke. And just to fill in on that, before I talk about that 96, the teams that were in talks were Alabama, Duke, FAU, Kansas, Houston, Oregon, San Diego State, St. Joe's somehow made this tournament field. Probably that one crappy team that you throw in there for the tournament. You always have to have that one crappy team. Syracuse and Virginia. Those are the teams that were talked to about this NIL tournament.
Because they need more NIL money for sure. They don't have enough.
This whole thing is stupid. It's just stupid. I don't get it. The 96 teams, I mean, yeah, you would probably you're gonna get more money if you put 96 teams. Yeah. But what I always think is that to be a part of the field of 68 is a privilege. You played well enough throughout your entire season. You won your conference tournament. If you are a lesser team, you made the tournament. That's a privilege to be in that field of 68. Now you expand it to 96. How many more teams get in there with 14 losses, with 15 losses? Where's the cutoff? Where are you going to cut this thing off? Because those aren't successful seasons. Those are just squeaking by and getting into March. I don't know. The NCAA is a disaster. It is a disaster all the way around. I hate what I'm seeing in college sports now. We might as well get rid of the NCAA and just make it a semi-pro league, because that's where we're heading right now, is just basically guys who are getting paid before they're going to go get big paydays. Don't get it. Don't understand it at all.
Yeah. And I never understood messing with something that's perfect. And that's, in my eyes, what the March Madness tournament is. Like, that's the most exciting time of the year. Filling out brackets and everything like that. And to decide to add, I just looked it up. It's 78, not 94. So maybe we were exaggerating a little bit, but still 78, that's 10 more teams you're going to add in. That's going to be I'm guessing that's going to be another round. It has to be, or something. I don't know how you'd add in another 10 teams, but I just don't understand why you would mess with something that in everybody's eyes right now is kind of perfect.
I think you were right though. I think they did put it at 96 teams. I thought that was a talk, is that they were talking about 96. They've been talking about a bunch of stupid crap. College football is talking about making the playoff field even bigger, and we haven't even played the first college football playoff with 12 teams. Now they're talking 14 teams. Or 16, 14 or 16, one of the two.
Yeah, you are right. It is 96. There's multiple different ones, but 96. Yep.
I don't get it. It's all money. All the college sports is money these days, and that's just the world we're living in. So with that, Rogan, anything else? Anything else we got to add to the end of the show here?
I'm trying to think. Not really. I don't got much.
Well, Rogan and Austin will be back here pretty soon. I believe I'm going to have them back here getting closer to the start, or closer to the draft. And also, we're going to have the full cast here when March Madness, when the bracket is announced. We're going to have the full cast here, because we're going to have to predict this top 64 teams and who's going to win it. We got to talk about that.
We should have a little Wisp Sports on the Go Facebook bracket challenge or something.
There you
have
go.
Everyone send in their brackets and keep track during the
We're going to set that baby up. We're going to put a prize pool in there. We'll get some prizes on there. Who knows? We'll set up something good there. So with that, that's about all we got for today. We went long today. We had lots to talk about, a lot of Badger talk. More to talk about tomorrow, though, as we move on with the week here. But with that, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. Thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you guys back here tomorrow. But until then, deuces.